Hi everybody, it's Lynne Forsythe here with the Petaloo and Splash of Color design teams. And I thought that I would give you a little step into my process on how I create things. One of the things I do know with design is that the eye likes odd number things. So you're either going to use 1 or you're going to use 3 or you're going to use 5, but the eye prefers using odd number things. So when I began this process of what I was going to create here, I knew I wanted to use this fence, so I wanted to lay that in the background like that. And then I always have a tendency to do a cluster off of the left-hand side. That's just my personal thing. You'll notice that almost everything I do has some type of flower cluster over here. So I pulled a little piece of ribbon that I kind of had hanging around, and I tied it with some thread so that I wouldn't have a big, huge, beefy bow underneath here. And so that's going to go here. And then, of course, we want some focal point of a flower, which on my stuff, sometimes maybe it's 3 medium-sized flower or 1 large flower, which is what I'm going to do here. So that's going to be the background for this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous printed Darjeeling flower that comes in the shades of white. So we're going to use that as the focal point of our little creation here. Then the next thing I pulled out was these awesome things right here. And they are part of the Color Me Crazy Petaloo floral assortment. One is going to kind of go upward. Well, I think we'll have 2, so I'm going to stack this one just a little bit lower. And this is just kind of a guideline because I'm trying to get just kind of a basic overall layout before I tear it all apart and color it. Now changes kind of how that goes. And then I thought it would be really cute on my wrought iron fence here to take 3 of the little birds that come in the birds and bird cages chipboard, and to put these, I'm going to stick these on my fence. So they're just going to kind of be sitting around here on my fence. And then I also took these little pearl beaded, I don't know, picks and I actually wrapped them around a very large needle that I had so that it got this swirly whirly kind of look to it. And we're going to tuck those in. And like I said, this is kind of a guideline. This could change as I move along, but this is how I typically work. I kind of lay everything all out and then tear it all apart and put it back together. Just want to tuck in here. Tuck in here. And I think over here would be nice. And then I'm going to have these, which are going to kind of get squinched. So they're going to kind of go a little bit like that. And then I have the mini pearl daisies, which will stuff a couple of those in there. How I came up with my basic layout, how we will go about the process of coloring. So I have this piece of the wrought iron chipboard, the Color Me Crazy from Petaloo, and I've got a little bit of precious metal effect paint. I just love the shimmer and oh my gosh, the goodness that comes with this. And I'm just going to brush this onto my fence. All right, so we're just going to set that aside to dry. See how pretty? Ooh, look at that shimmer. So I was going to clean up this paint, but I'm actually just going to leave it right there. And I'm going to continue my creative process because I really like that gold. And it would be fun to kind of incorporate. So now what I want to do is I'm just going to spritz these little fern looking things with some water, because I just find that water helps in the painting process. It just helps it to saturate the material that the little Color Me Crazies are made out of. It just helps it soak up that color a little bit more. Let's put a little bit of that gold on there. Woo! So we need to let those little babies dry. Here's where part of this process gets really messy because, yeah, these ferns are really beautiful by themselves, but as they're drying, I'm going to crumple them up because I just want them to have more dimension to them. So while they're drying, I'm kind of just crumpling them up. Now, when you take these apart, do it very gingerly because it is paper, and it will tear if it's still really wet. All right, so there's our 3 little ferns, all kind of mangled up, but looking so awesome. All right, we'll set those aside and let those continue to dry. Then we do have these 3 other leaves, which let's soak them with some water. And this is a little bit of silk acrylic glaze, and I'm just adding just a tad bit more water to it. I'm just going to go around the edges of my leaf. Give it a nice little spritz of water and see how it does that. And if you wanted to, you could even go in and kind of where the veins are running. Just give it a little extra paint. Hey, look at that. And go around the edges just a little bit more to give it just a little more depth to the leaf. And there you have another one. And once again, while I'm drying these, I have them kind of squinched up. And that was, I don't think I told you what the color was. That was olive vine silk acrylic glaze. So I like these, but it's a little bright for me. So I'm going to take some butternut Radiant Rain Shimmering Mist, and I'm just going to give these little guys a squirt. Kind of tone them down a little bit. Now, as I've said before, water is an amazing color mover. So what I'm going to do for this next flower is I'm just going to kind of hold all the petals up, and I'm going to give this a spritz of water on the bottom petals. And then using my Spiced Pumpkin Silk Acrylic Glaze, my paintbrush in the water, I'm just going to kind of put some of this around the edges. Can you just see how that's soaking right up into those flowers? Those petals? Oh, gorgeous. So now I want that to kind of dry a little bit. So I'm going to use Love Struck as my shadow color. Okay, and now I'm just going to go around the edges of my flower. And I'm going to spritz it with a little bit of water. And look what it does. Look at that. Okay, now we're going to go to the next layer. Now, the one thing you're going to notice that when the colors start to dry, and it doesn't actually matter what you're using for your color, it's going to be darker. Look at this. Oh my gosh. This is just so gorgeous, these colors here. All right, so now we're going to go to the next layer. Let's move on. Give it just a little spritz because I don't want too much of that back layer moving. I'm going to use Apricot Nectar and Yellow Rose. I want a good old puddle of water here because I'm not squirting this as much. So I'm just painting on the yellow rose onto the next layer of petals. And if you pick up color from the layer below, that's just okay, because it's all going to go together as one beautiful flower anyway. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of the spice marmalade and a little bit of the love struck mixed together. Give it a good spritz of water. And dab that onto the ends of these petals. All right, let's give that a little spritz of water. Help everybody move around. Ooh, and the flower is growing. Ooh, how pretty. Okay, so now we need to dry that layer. Isn't that just beautiful? Oh my gosh, I love flowers. Okay, so now I'm just going to use the yellow rose in the center for the last layer. And it's probably mixed within a little bit of everything here. All right, so there we have that. And now what I want to do is just right around the center where the little pitons are kind of in the middle of the flower, I am going to put some of this darker color there to just give the center of that flower some amazing depth. My color selection here, this is coral berry, evening primrose, and raspberry wine. Basically doing the exact same thing that we did on our large flower, is that we're going to put layers of color in here and just create some beautiful flowers to go on our piece. So once again, we spritz with water because water is what? Water is the great color mover. All right, so with these little guys here, I think we're going to do all different kinds of colors. And it really helps if you get these silks kind of diluted down just a little bit. And here I'm going to go right in the center of this flower. And I'm just going to let that color wick up into the flower. And I think with the next one, we'll just go right around the edges and then let it soak in. Wick downward in the petal, giving you kind of the white center. So I have a little bit of the coral berry in there. What I think I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow rose and we'll create our puddle there, spritz it with some water. And just kind of drop that on the outsides of the petals. So you end up with these little variegated flowers that are oh so pretty. So you do have to be a little careful with your color selections because they can muddy. So now we just need for all of our flowers to dry. So here is my completed project with all of the mini daisies and some of the other flowers, and then I take some of them and I just take them like this and pinch from the back. And then you can rearrange the flowers like that and just nestle everything in, and here you have your completed project. I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial with Petaloo and Splash of Color, and that you too have a fabulous creative day.